Thanks so much for joining us today on Welcome Home. Merry Christmas to everybody. We have such a special couple here with us today on Welcome Home. They are going to bless your lives. Are you ready for this? We have Mrs. International 2016 with us today and her incredibly handsome husband, and they're going to be talking to us about their journey and how they experience joy throughout the holidays with all the different challenges they have in their lives, in addition to telling us about a ministry that they're very involved in. So this is just a super, super Christmas show, and I'm glad you're here with us today. Sean, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And you want to introduce your gorgeous wife?
Yes, my beautiful, the most important thing in my life, Mrs. Priscilla International.
I'm telling you, she knocks our socks off. When you walked in the door, you are so gorgeous. But what's so special about you is your inner beauty. You know, we always talk about that external beauty. A lot of people have that, right? And it's a wonderful thing to have. It obviously opens doors for you. But it's the internal, your love for Jesus, that's so special.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Tell us about, Priscilla, your journey to get to Mrs. International.
Well, it's something that I can't just easily explain. It was like a calling. It was like God was literally drawing me to this calling of Mrs. International, this platform. And so I started having dreams about it. And prior to that, like 5 years before that, my husband had a dream of us on a stage and wearing this beautiful attire. And then whenever we walked on the stage, they clapped the loudest. And he writes all his dreams down. And so when I was contemplating entering this pageant, he reminded me of that dream that he had 5 years prior. And I was like, wow, you know, God's really confirming to both of us that this is the time for me to do this.
Well, now, had you been in pageants as a little girl or as a teenager?
As a teenager, I did, yeah. Okay. I did a few pageants as a teenager, and I was very successful in pageantry then, but they were Christian pageants.
Okay.
Back then, we had Miss Christian Teen USA.
Oh, that's neat.
And so it was great because it gave me that type of pageant, like that inner beauty is what counts the most. And it taught me that at an early age, so it really prepared me to really let my heart shine, not so much as my exterior beauty, my inner beauty.
Right. So tell us about your family, because this is amazing. I mean, you look like you are a teenager still right now, but you've got a slew of kids at home.
Yes, we do. We have 6 beautiful children. They range from ages 4 all the way up to 19. So we are constantly busy. We homeschool. And so there's never a boring moment.
Now, you homeschool, Priscilla, but you're on the road like about every 3 days. You're in the airplane, you're traveling all over the United States, and probably internationally too, right?
Yes, definitely.
So how do you homeschool? Do you homeschool?
It's daddy daycare. When she's gone, I've learned how hard it is to be a
Mr.
homemaker,
Mom.
that's for sure.
Yes.
But, you know, it's been incredible. It's the biggest blessing to be able to spend that much time with the kids.
Right.
Because I've gotten to know them at a level that I've never known them before, and it gave me a high regard for my wife.
But you also have a full-time job, right?
I do.
And so how do you do that? How do you balance it all?
The good thing is that it's all done from the home. So as long as I have a cell phone and a laptop, I can get everything done. I work with investors in the oil industry, and I just set time aside to have these meetings and conference calls.
So you were talking about, Priscilla, the fact that God really prompted you in your heart to enter this international pageant, and that he would use you as a Christian young lady. You've obviously been a Christian for quite some time if you're talking about having been a Christian teenager in a pageant. How is he using your faith in Christ to minister to other people?
Well, you know, it's amazing because one of the things that we have to do as Mrs. International, one of our duties is we have to blog twice a week.
Oh, okay.
And that can be very time consuming. And this is one of the things that most queens complain about. But this has been the biggest blessing in my title thus far. Because every time I blog, every time I blog, I use that time to really pray, Lord, what would you have me say to these people?
What a great opportunity.
Exactly. And he's had me talk about suicide, my problems with suicide. He's had me talk about, you know, struggling with bullying. I was bullied as a young girl, heavily bullied. It was horrible. And talk about situations that when I was writing it, God was healing my heart. And so not only was I healing myself and God was healing me, but it's healed other people's, and they've been shared several times. And I've heard so many testimonies on how they've been touched by these blogs. And so God's really using me in more than just going out and traveling and speaking, but in all different ways.
And you have probably millions, if thousands, maybe even millions of people reading your blog?
Yes.
That is amazing. So Priscilla, tell me, as a teenager, why were you bullied? Is it because you think you were beautiful and people were jealous or resentful of that? Do you have any idea why you were bullied?
I honestly think it was God inside of me. Because one of the things that they would bully me about was I smiled too much.
Wow. Wow. Like that's a bad thing.
I'm a little too happy.
Right?
And they said, you know, she's too happy. How can someone be that happy?
Yeah.
It's got to be fake. Well, I had the joy of the Lord in my heart. So
Exactly.
it had to be that they didn't like that. And so...
So did feelings of suicide, you just inferred that there were some struggles with that as well. Did that result because of the bullying, do you think?
No, that was later on in life when we
Okay.
experienced our most difficult situation.
We, meaning you and Sean?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll let you tell about that one.
Well, our testimony, I think every American can relate to. We were the epitome of chasing after the American dream.
Yeah.
I remember when we were young and we just got married, we were living in a small one-bedroom apartment. I think you were pregnant at the time with Nathan, right? Mm-hmm. And we had big hopes and dreams in every church I ever went to, every prophet, every pastor, every youth pastor. Sean, you're going to do great things in ministry. You're going to be financing churches. And so I just knew that, and Priscilla did too. Mm-hmm. And 2004, stepped into the oil industry, became VP, and moved forward and started an oil company. And in the end of it, we had acquired our dream house, our dream cars, boat, jet skis, you name it. And 2008, when the financial markets collapsed, we lost everything.
Everything.
So did you file for bankruptcy even?
Well, we didn't file for bankruptcy.
Didn't have to
And
do
we had
that.
to pay back a lot of money.
We decided to trust God in that time.
Okay.
When He told us to take the high road
Yeah.
and to pay them back, to pay the investors back.
That's tough.
It was tough.
Right?
But we trusted Him.
But you trusted him, Priscilla, but you're telling me you also struggled enough that you're thinking suicide
Yes.
might be your way out, right?
You know, all of us have to overcome certain things at one time or another. And so there had been a heart condition in my heart that maybe it did stem from bullying growing up or from, I don't know, but at some point I didn't deal with something and it resurfaced. And so during that time when we were losing everything and my whole life revolved around having pretty things and having my beautiful house and having parties at my house. And I was always entertaining. We were always hosting events at our house. And so I didn't know what to do. I lost who I was. And so...
How did you get out of that? How did you go from that place of despondency to being okay again?
You know, what was key to getting out of that rut is learning what God, the purpose of our lives. And what most men don't realize, and women, when they're pursuing the things of the kingdom, is that a part of learning is falling on your face.
Yeah.
Every tree has to be pruned. And we were in the pruning process, not realizing this was a part of His plan. And once we realized that, we embraced it, and we saw the joy of being humbled. And because once we realize that if we have our eyes on His words, the very words that He spoke to us, and we focus on what He wants us to focus on, like Safe Haven baby boxes,
Yes.
the doors just spring open. The finances, they follow.
Yeah.
They follow us. We don't chase after money anymore.
Right.
The doors are opening, just like here we are today.
Yeah.
This is God's plan.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk a bit about your Safe Haven ministry that you're involved in. I know there are a lot of things that you're interested in ministry-wise, but tell us that cool story, Priscilla.
Well, it's crazy. You can't even call it a coincidence because I remember I was talking to my pageant coach and she asked me, well, you're involved in so many different facets. How do we narrow this down? And so she said, well, tell me, what is your ultimate goal? And she's an incredible woman of God. And I know that it was God speaking through her. And so she said, what is your ultimate goal with this? And I immediately answered and I said, my dream is to build baby boxes in China and to stop the current gendercide where 200 million baby girls have died. And she was like, wow, what's a baby box? And so I was like, well, let me look it up and tell you all about it. And so I already knew about it, but I wanted to give her the website so she could see it. And I told her about Pastor Lee in Korea, and I was looking for him on the internet. And while I was searching, I stumbled upon Safe Haven baby boxes. And I was like, wait a second. There are baby boxes in the U.S.? How come I didn't know about this? But the thing was, they opened the very day that I found out about them, their first baby box in the U.S.
Well, that is a God thing. That has to be a
Exactly.
God thing. What is a baby box exactly? What happens with that?
Well, a baby box is an extra added alternative to the Safe Haven surrenders, where you can safely surrender a baby under Safe Haven law. So this is a last resort for mothers in crisis. Yes. So instead of abandoning your baby, because what we've seen a lot is even though we had these Safe Haven laws, babies were still being abandoned. And so mothers don't want that face-to-face interaction. They don't want to feel the guilt.
Sure.
They don't want to feel the shame.
Sure.
So they were taking their babies and they were leaving them at the front doors of fire stations, of hospitals. And in one case, we had this little boy who was left in a cardboard box outside of a hospital. And by the time they found him, he had frozen to death. And so this completely removes that shame and that guilt. And so this is an added way to secure that that won't happen.
So is there an actual box that
Yes.
the baby goes in?
It is a box that's installed on the exterior walls of fire stations. And so it's amazing because it is complete with heating and cooling.
Really?
So that will not happen. Thank you, Lord.
Yes.
And it has a sensor, so it's immediately triggered, and someone is notified within 30 seconds. And that baby is picked up within 3 to 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this, I know the laws are different probably in every state.
Yes,
But
that's
would
right.
every state have a Safe Haven box at a fire station, for example?
That is our goal.
Okay,
That
but
is
right
our
now
goal.
that's not a reality.
Not yet.
Okay.
So we covet your prayers. We definitely need that.
What's it like? I know you're from Wyoming. What's it like in Wyoming?
Well, we don't have a huge problem with abandonments in Wyoming.
Okay.
Our number one state is Texas, then California, Illinois, Georgia, and Florida is number 5
Wow.
for abandonments. So it's a big problem here. But we don't have a huge problem out there. What we need is the big states to start really leading the pack.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're working on those big states. We're focusing on them, and we're trying to open more. We just signed 2 new contracts. So we're opening one in Utah,
Good.
and we haven't announced our second location yet. But we're also talking to Honduras. We're talking to Belize. We're
Good.
talking to the Republic of Sudan, where we really need it.
Because look what God's given you. I mean, talk
Yes.
about leveraging your crown. You're traveling now internationally, and so you have that opportunity to open doors for this in other
Yes,
countries across the world. I mean, if that's not God,
Exactly.
It's completely God. The moment we
Exactly.
started upholding Safe Haven baby boxes, God started opening up doors.
yeah.
It's been incredible.
What happens to the young lady, the mom, who drops her baby off? The baby is obviously taken care of. I love that there's a sensor in the box, it's at a fire station or a hospital, wherever it is. Do we ever know anything about the moms?
That's the whole point of the Safe Haven baby box. Nobody knows who they are because most of these women that are leaving their babies at
They want
trash dumps-
anonymity,
Yes.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. They don't want to feel the shame. They don't want
Yeah.
to feel the guilt.
Yeah.
And they're completely set apart now. They don't have to have the problems with the child abandonment charges. They don't have to face any charges. They're completely free of blame, free of that shame. They don't have to give their name.
So is there a website, if there are viewers that are listening today, we hope and pray that they're
Yes.
not considering that, but there could be a mom in crisis out there today that does
Yes.
not want this child. She has chosen not to abort this child. Praise God for that.
Exactly.
What website do they need to go
Well,
to?
first they need to search what their laws are because laws do differ from state to state.
Okay.
So, for instance, in Wyoming, you can surrender your baby up to 14 days, but in Florida, it's up to 7 days. So you need to know your laws
Okay.
in your state. So you need to go to www.nationalsafehavenalliance.org.
Okay.
And then to find out about the baby boxes, you can go to www.safehavenbabyboxes.com.
So what happens in Florida after 7 days? Your baby is 8 days old and you want to abandon this baby. What does that girl do?
I would have her call in to the hotline, which is 1-888-510-BABY, and ask them, because we have counselors there that know exactly what to tell them. They can guide them through. They can send them to resources, to places that could help them. So
And the biggest thing that this hotline does for these young ladies, and even mothers that they're overcoming a lie. The lies are what are causing these, and it mostly has to do with finances. They're afraid they cannot provide. So really they want a good life for the child so they don't feel worthy of being a parent. And so they walk them through the lies and help them overcome.
And don't you think it's odd that they get to that place? You know, did they think that they were going to be able to raise that child? They obviously wanted to carry the child to full term. They have the baby. They're thinking, I can handle this. And then maybe 3 or 4 days later, is that what happens? Or maybe we don't even know what happens that much to the mom.
Well, there are all different types of scenarios. You know, it could be addiction. It could be an abusive situation. It could be financial, mental problems. There's so many different scenarios. What we need to understand is that these mothers are in a desperate situation and that we need to have the utmost compassion for these mothers.
Yes, and to honor the fact that they've made the choice for life, even if they could not handle this child. They have done that, and there is no judgment. I mean, there, but by the grace of God, go each one of us, you know. What other challenges are you guys, because I love you all as a couple. You guys have been so transparent, so precious.
Thank you.
But it's got to be a tough life that you're leading right now. It's so out of the box. I mean, you're traveling all over the world. You're at home trying to hold down a full-time job and helping kids and guide kids with homeschooling. And all of these kids we didn't even mention to our viewers, they're not all your biological children.
No.
You have a blended family. What are some of your challenges?
Well, for me, I mean, since I'm the one bringing home the finances, I mean, we're financing all of this. Her travels and most of those expenses are coming out of our pocket. Plus, our local outreach, that's not funded by a church. That's funded by the Pruitt house. And so the biggest challenge was getting used to Priscilla being out of the home and me handling the children. That was very interesting, but I've learned to love it.
What has it done to your marriage?
You know, it's given me a higher respect for her.
Good, I like that.
And she, and I know that it's caused her to have a stronger love for me because I'm allowing her to live her dream.
Definitely, yes. And, you know, we wouldn't be where we are today had we not gone through those trials that we went through when we were talking about during my time of suicide. And when we lost everything, that was when I became suicidal because we had to literally, we were homeless. We had to live with his parents. We had no vehicles. Going from a Hummer, a Corvette, a Camaro, we gave away a vehicle. One of our best vehicles God told us to give away, and we trusted him. And then, you know, we had that self-righteous moment where I was like, God, I did this, this, and this. I built orphanages. Why are we in this situation? It was during that time that I literally turned my back from God. You know, I turned my back to him and I said, you know what? If I did this and you have not helped me, you know, I'm done. And so that's when I was, you know, suicidal. But then during that time, I remember we went through the worst Christmas of our lives. We couldn't even buy presents under the tree for our babies. But we became pregnant during that time. And that is when everything changed. And we realized the things that are truly meaningful in life. And had we not realized that none of those things, we really didn't lose anything. None of that meant anything to us. But the things that are eternal, when we built the orphanages, that was never taken away. Everything else was taken away. Our children were never taken away. And so now our lives are different. Like we see that, yes, we're investing into the kingdom and yes, we're doing all these things. It's difficult, but we see how great that is. You know, you might be going through something right now, but the things that are eternal are the things that you can't even explain what the happiness that they bring. Everything else, you're chasing after the wind. You know, it says in Matthew 8:36, for what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?
In God's sovereignty, he allows us to fall.
Exactly.
To put our eyes back where they belong.
Amen.
And our eyes belong on our Creator and on our family. And it brought back that joy and love and passion for life that we had been missing because of the lies of the world.
And yes, we've gone through we do get a travel budget, as you're surprise package.
Yeah,
and I've
but
gone
Priscilla
through
being
that.
an overachiever has blown through it the first week.
Yes, but we see it as investing in the kingdom.
Yes,
Because we're doing
yes.
good for him, for God.
Well, and I have to say, the whole theme of this program today is on joy in your circumstances, regardless of what you're going through. And I love, Sean and Priscilla, that you're talking about when we're flat on our faces, when we're in our lowest points, when God's doing the pruning, that's when we're closest to him. And so
Amen.
there could be some viewers out there today that are listening and they're going, wow, this is such a great looking couple. They got 6 kids, they got plenty of money, they're doing everything that, but no, you know, you are struggling, but you have joy because you have the Lord in your
Amen.
lives.
That is the key.
And it's eternal.
That is
Your
the key.
perspective is so eternal. So Priscilla, Mrs. International, I can see why you won. God is truly using you in such a powerful way. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
And Sean, thank you. God bless you, Mr. Mom.
Thank you.
May you continue to be a great role model for those kids and all that you guys do.
Oh, thank
Merry
you.
Christmas to you.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, we've got more for you.